And I'm live. This is Astro Lunatic. You can call me Susan, but I answer to Astro Lunatic and any other various and sundry terms of endearment. How are you all doing on this Sunday? I'm still working through my breakfast, which includes a delicious dark roast from Trader Joe's. You can't beat it for $4.99. I take my word for it. I'm a coffee connoisseur, and if you like strong but smooth coffee, and I have traveled across the United States, and I can tell you, the best coffee is on the East Coast. But I did find a few places in LA that met my standards. Anyway, we are here on a Sunday. It's September 17th. Whew, we're past the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde, and we're in the new moon waxing cycle. Happy day, happy day. Let's see who's in the chat room here. We've already got, even before I went live, we had Pat the Elf raising havoc in my chat room and being naughty. Pat, what's up? All right, all right. So the elf is doing work around the house and he has his Oreos over his areolas and a loincloth on. If the French maid outfit, I don't know. It doesn't quite go with the beard. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing something more of like a dungeon um warden, like a prison warden outfit, but maybe that's just me. Work on that. Go with the chains and black leather. I think it's more your style, but I don't know. You tell me. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you, Elf, for showing up here. He's working, so let's just leave him alone. He works best on his own. Anyway, I hope everyone is enjoying this wonderful Sunday. And I have to say, I feel better now that we're past the retrogrades, although we're still in the shadow. Make no mistake, everything that was rewinded and reversed, we're going to go right back over it, just like I don't know. How would you classify that? I'm picturing a vehicle that hit an animal. The animal's dead, but the vehicle's still reversing it, going back over it. No, that's nasty. That's not a great analogy. I don't want to cast shade on the retrograde, lest Mercury and Venus come for me, but a lot of people get all antsy and worried when they hear the retrograde, but not all retrogrades are created equal. Though this one definitely lived up, the Mercury retrograde definitely lived up to its Virgo reputation. Maybe because Mercury is in a sign that it rules, or some would say it's a co-ruler of, the other being Chiron, because Virgo is concerned with healing and whatnot. So that could be, but we're winding towards the end of the Virgo transit from the sun. But Mercury is going to, now that it's direct, come in and sweep up the debris. And, it's like after the party's over, then you got the guy that comes in, has to clean up. That's Virgo. Virgo is like a Cinderella type. Anyway, glad those are over. But if you really notice and keep track of the retrograde, let's say for the 3 weeks that the Mercury is retrograde, when you have the big events, those are usually when Mercury is having aspects. That's what correlates to the events. And as we go direct back over those degrees, um, what I usually see is that the situation flips, reverses, changes. We have more information because things could be a little confusing during the retrograde. We're not getting all the information, especially in a sign like Virgo that's all about analysis of the details. We may not have been getting all the details. However, this particular Mercury retrograde, I feel like we were definitely getting a lot of details. If anything, it might have been an information overload and people running in all sorts of directions with said information. So, what else did I see? Let's see. Well, I was noticing in my own in my own life, too much information. Let's start there. Uh, it was a time for me when I was looking at the content of my show and how I'm presenting it, and Mercury being communication, and Virgo really, being quite profuse with the details. I made a plan to sort of streamline the content. Um, Also looking at our communications, looking at our Virgo Pisces axis in our chart, which has a lot to do with criticism and, seeing a lot of people who had no problem speaking their mind and telling everybody what it was. A lot of that. Twitter's really good for that, for taking the temperature of the collective. So I, uh, you know, um, criticism and critique, and people, like, let's say for instance, listening to a podcast. For the most part, people are pretty polite and respectful, um, but during the Mercury retrograde, you would see people like just not holding back when it comes to giving their critique on someone's, you know, well, basically giving an unsolicited opinion, which Virgo can do. It's funny because I used to work with a guy who was a Virgo. I think he was a Virgo rising. Every day when I'd walk into work, he would tell me exactly what he didn't like about my makeup or my hair. Or thing is, the guy actually loved me. He had a thing for me. It's kind of weird, but in true Virgo fashion, he loved me, but would always find something wrong with me. So, I would never, he'd go back and forth like, she's the one, I love her, I'm going to marry you. And then, you know, he'd find all kinds of things wrong. That's a very Virgo trait. Perfectionism. The person can never live up to your ideals. I don't know if he had Venus in Virgo, but pity the fools that have Venus in Virgo, or if you're in a relationship to one, they're always going to be scrutinizing you. They're always going to be seeing where you fall short. Um, unless they have it in certain configuration where they're self-deprecating and the microscope is turned up their own butt where it should be, Virgo. Um, It's pretty funny. I'm just thinking about this person. So crazy. Meanwhile, I had no interest, but it was just funny where like one day he was dead set on making me his wife, and the next week I was just trash. God. Well, the thing is, I have a lot of Virgo on my chart, so I've dealt with Virgo and Pisces because I have Pisces, quite a bit of Pisces too. So I've watched the projection that happens and the um, kind of like a scapegoating sort of energy where people project upon you and pick out your flaws and make you the bad guy. Meanwhile, they're pretty guilty themselves. So he who has no sin cast the first stone, as they say. So let's get back to the astrology chart. I'm going to streamline, just like I said. I'm not going to go blah blah. Okay, I'm done blah blah. I had to blah blah for a few minutes, and now we're going to get down to business. So, like I said, today is the 17th of September, and the moon is in Libra, conjunct the South Node. As we're speaking right now, it's at 24 degrees of Libra, and the South Node is at 26, between 25 and 26. So, we had the new moon several days ago on Thursday of last week. And then right after that, Mercury went direct. So the new moon being in Virgo sets the tone for the lunar cycle. We are ready to work our our Virgo game. And we've learned everything we need to know about the Virgo part of ourself, the part that needs to be organized and clean, fastidious, our focusing on our routines and our systems, but it also needs to be of service. Virgo is to be of service. Virgo, the Virgin, were the Vestal Virgins that served in the temples, and they gave their life in service to tend the flame of Vesta. Vesta being, well, we have an asteroid named after Vesta, but it was one of the Greek goddesses. I think it's Greek. I always get them mixed up. Greek, Roman. What's the difference? So here we have a group of women, um, and when it comes to the concept of virgin, it wasn't what we think of it now today. I don't know, like virgin, what's that? But in those days, a virgin was a woman who was not beholden to her father, her brother, her husband. She had her own means to support herself, and so she did not have to listen to anybody. There was nobody that was the boss of her, and she, if she chose to, could go and live in the temples with the other women in service to Vesta, and it was their responsibility to keep the flame in the temple burning. So, Vesta and Virgo became associated with the concept of service and sacrifice. And so when we look at the asteroid of Vesta, we associate it, we astrologers, associate it with devotion to a belief system, a group, and the hearth and the home, keeping the home fires burning, so to speak. And it became broadly associated also with the goddess Estrella, who is associated with health and cleanliness and um, healthcare. So today we look at Virgo as representing the working class, blue collar, uh, the people of a nation that keep it going, service professions, people in like healthcare, uh, you know, um, well, professions like, I want to say, law enforcement or police, but not really because police and law enforcement specifically I would associate with Aries and the planet Mars and Scorpio and Pluto, but it's the workforce as a whole. So during the Mercury retrograde, what were we looking at? Issues of health, uh, the professions that work on our behalf to serve the public. That would include restaurant workers. I didn't find anything in the news, but I didn't look. But I know that I believe that there's an worker strike, if I'm not mistaken. And there were talks of possibly healthcare or teachers' unions. Something like that was afoot. Now, as you know, there's talk about going back to the protocols and um, how would you put it? The regulations. That's another thing that Virgo is concerned with. Systems and habits and routines and regulations. Hello, Lynn. Lynn is in the chat today. Glad you could make it. You didn't miss too much. I've only been on for about 20 minutes, and the first 10 of it was blah blah, so welcome. Um, so yeah, back to Virgo, kind of the wrap up of the Mercury retrograde. So, as a general rule, the way I look at a retrograde of of really any planet, but specifically Mercury, because it only lasts 3 weeks roughly, it only happens 3 times a year. So, we can see the patterns much easier. And what I like to do is um, you can look at the news and the information and the things that you observe when Mercury starts its shadow. What's the shadow? So there are the degrees that Mercury passes over in its retrograde. It's the starting and the ending. In this case, it was 8 to 9 degrees of Virgo, where Mercury went direct. It went retrograde at 22 degrees. So, in between those degrees, so whatever was going on from the start of the shadow, whatever you felt building, and then the events that happen about the day of or on or before or after the stationary of the planet to go retrograde, those are your messages. That's your assignment for the retrograde. So you can kind of gauge what things are going to transpire for you, what you're going to be working on. I like to look at it from, an empowerment perspective where things are not just happening to you, you're participating in them. So you take note from that time when, let's say, Mercury was around 8 degrees of Virgo, and you want to see where that is in your chart. See what what are you being inspired? What messages are coming for you? Um, what do you feel drawn to? I know for me, uh, I I mean, I was very much influenced by it because I have Earth planets and I have planets in Virgo. So, I would say that people who have planets in that sign or the retrograde planet, let's in this case Mercury, making aspects to your planets, then you're going to be more of a main character in this drama being played out. Drama not being bad, drama meaning um, a production, a play. Think of it as a movie or a season in your favorite binge binge watching show on Netflix. Um, the more direct access to that retrograde planet, the more that person is going to be influenced and be a character in, let's say, that episode. Hey, Dave, what's up? Thanks for joining me. Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange, everyone. And the crowd goes wild. The crowd being me and Lynn, because I don't know where the elf dropped off to. He fell off the shelf. Poor elf. Anyway, yeah, Dave just finished a show on the AMP app where he was playing some rainy day songs. It's sunny here, so I don't know what you're bitching about. You guys are getting the brunt of the hurricane. We were supposed to get some kind of stuff, but it changed its mind, I guess. I don't know what happened. Yeah, yep. So if you guys are familiar with the AMP app, you can play actual literal music because it is linked to Amazon. So if you have an Amazon Prime account, you could stream real music and play all your favorite songs and then talk shit in between. So go over there, check out Dave Beyond the Strange, find his show and follow. Follow, 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 follow. Oh, what is that? That's from the Fantastics, isn't it? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the song. Try to remember a time in September. Oh, God, I just butchered it. Stop. No singing aloud. See, this is why I want to play songs, so I don't have to sing. Although I can sing pretty good. I cannot sing karaoke to save my life because I can't hear myself. Anyway, never mind. Going back to the retrograde, just explaining that if you pay attention, you get the message, you get the memo, and you'll know what the theme of your retrograde season is about and find it in your chart and look at the aspects that it's making to your planets as well as to other planets that are in transit, and you'll have a good idea of what might be happening, or at least the theme of it. Sorry, taking a sip of my now cold Trader Joe's dark roast. $4.99, y'all. You can't beat it. Anyway, so for me, I have Virgo in the sixth house, where it is the natural sign of the sixth house because it's the sixth sign from Aries. So, again, like sixth house is the theme of daily habits, routines. It's the people we work with, our coworkers, the people we share our routines with on a day-to-day basis, and health, all the things I mentioned, devotion and service, and the types of people that work in the service industry, and being humble, and on the dark side, with a shadow of Virgo, is self-deprecation. And when it's not deprecating self, it's deprecating someone else because they got to stick up their butt and they're not dealing with their own shit. That's what it's all about. Yeah, so we're past that, but Mercury still has to get back to 21 degrees of Virgo, and I'm going to go over the week's aspect in a minute, but I want to tell you exactly when that will be as it comes to mind, and it's not on the top of my head. I'm going to try to share my screen today. So September 29th, Mercury is out of its shadow because it'll hit 21, get to 22, and then it's past the degrees where it's stationed to go the retrograde. So we have to deal with the cleanup, the aftermath, we're done talking about it, we're done planning and thinking about it. Now it's put your money where your mouth is. It's time to act. It's time to put the plan in place. Mercury retrograde is a great time to see all the flaws in your plan, all the holes in your routines and your everyday life. And Virgo also deals with the digestive system, most specifically your small intestine. So it could be the holes in your digestive system. You think I'm joking? Go look up leaky gut. So, for those of you who have been listening to my show, I've been talking a lot about the things that you can do to tune up your digestive system. And I don't know if I'm allowed to even talk about that because the terms of service, the TOS of the POS, that is sometimes YouTube, talking about certain topics regarding health, not allowed because, we can't be responsible for our own choices. No, no, no. Daddy government always knows best, especially when it's financed by Big Pharma. Let's all give a big fuck you to Big Pharma. Whoop, whoop. Got your middle fingers up in the air? I do. Both of them. And my toes. Anyway, the tune-ups having to do with your digestive system. Digestion is everything, and a lot of that I came across, I was looking for it. But I heard a lot of other people talking about it because I definitely, hang around the water cooler, so to speak. I got my antennas up because I want to know what other people are saying, and that's how I gauge the temperature of the collective. And a lot of people were focused on this. We've been focused so long on how our health, let's say, has been eroded and been attacked. We have that information. A lot of that got rehashed and brought back out, dusted off, and brought back out into the public discourse. So the information was there about how, what was wrong. So Virgo first addresses the problem, the issue, what is wrong, so that it can perfect and make it right, to improve, to make it better. Because that's the true service of Virgo, is to help, is to spot the flaws and where we can streamline and make things better, improvement. It's not for random criticism and pulling out the splinter in the other person's eye. Meanwhile, you're not addressing the log in your own, Virgo. It's one of my pet peeves. But it's a pet peeve, but it's something, again, for placements in Virgo, I can tell you, I do it. I do it. So there's that. So the holes in your plan, the holes in your routines, your whatever it is, your system, your OCD loops, and maybe how to get out of them. That's always a good thing. Obsession is obsession's a hell of a drug. Yes, it is. All right, so by the 29th, we'll be out of the shadow from Mercury's retrograde, and then a few days later, give it a week. Yep, October 6th, Venus will be out of her shadow. I talked a lot about Venus retrograde in Leo on other shows. I won't go into that. It was a longer retrograde. Venus is a very different planet. It's obviously uh, it's affecting us differently than Mercury, you know. Um, it was more having to do with money and love, relationships, physical attraction, um, our presentation, our branding, our the we dealt a lot with the shadow side of Venus in Leo. Uh, Specifically with women, like there was a lot of what I saw, a lot of stuff coming up about like women who commit crimes, like women killing their children, killing the nurse who killed babies in the hospital, and mothers. Well, I said mothers killing their children, but women who killed their spouses, and a lot more focus on women. And um, in Leo, well, there's, I think the shadow side of that was a lot to do with getting attention, also money, ego, um, wanting to have one's own ego needs to be met in terms of love and feeling loved, but the narcissistic side, you know, also when we're talking about a retrograde, it is the shadow, a lot of it. It's dealing with the internal parts of the functioning of that planet. So, again, a lot of stuff coming up about women, um, celebrities, sign of Leo. Uh, yeah, even women, females being victims of certain crimes. So, also, there was a lot to do with money. And if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't know. But I'm here to tell you money and the way we exchange it is changing. There are a lot of laws, and there's a lot of legal cases being tried right now, and discussion about regulations. Again, that came in with the Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Virgo is regulations. Um, and Venus being the retrograde planet, Venus made a square to so Jupiter, yes, expansion, being in the sign of uh, Venus ruled Taurus. Taurus is raw materials and resources, but things of value, including money. So um, that would include crypto. And crypto, we look at the planet Uranus. So changes to the value of money. If you don't know about the BRICS nations, okay? And they are trying to, basically, they dropped the petrodollar. And so they're creating their own standard of value, as we all are. Um, our currency is our, currency. Think of it in terms of currents and electricity and life force and chi, and currency in terms of electric voltage and current. And what do we see? EMP, dues, directed energy. weapons, a lot of talk about our, how we exchange things of value and currency and everything that encompasses. That has to do with Uranus. So Venus in her retrograde made squares to both Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. So that brought also, because Taurus is the earth, it brought earth changes. And what did we see? We saw a lot of storms. We saw earthquakes. We saw there's a volcano erupting. There might be one in Italy. I'm not sure, but I know there's one in Hawaii, Kilauea, if I'm not mistaken. So that's earth energy. So Venus in fire, kind of friction, making friction, rubbing up against the earth of Taurus. So there you go, right there. But if you're keeping track of the events during that time, again, Venus's retrograde is much longer. You can track the changes and kind of guess where things are going, right? Inflation. We're going to have problems with our currency, guys. So looking at other things of value that would increase in value. Hard assets. That's Taurus. Uranus and Taurus. When Uranus went into Taurus, we saw the value of cryptocurrency increase. So while it is virtual, we are looking at it as something of value now. And there are big institutional investors putting money into blockchain and, Ethereum and Bitcoin. And with Jupiter in Taurus, there's this lawsuit going on with Ripple and XRP. So a lot more people are looking at cryptocurrency as having value. Those were the changes, those were the things that we need to pay attention to as Venus was doing her retrograde thing, and Mercury was also aspecting Uranus and Jupiter. So looking at the systems and the regulations, Virgo, around our currency. Also looking at our personal values and Uranus forcing changes, forcing us to look at being more with an eye towards the future, towards technology, towards doing something completely different that you know, it's uncharted territory for us because there are changes coming. Okay, we have to move with these changes. So, a lot of that. And that brings us up to today, September 17th, 2023. It is the day of the sun. And checking out the chat. Dave Strange, Beyond the Strange, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Yeah, baby. I am a crypto bitch. I'm all about it. I have a few current cryptos, and you know, I could be, you could be like listening to the next crypto rich bitch. I am. I could be. I have quite a bit of Bitcoin, but it's tied up right now, and I need to look at the chart for that, for Mount Gox, the bankruptcy. Did you know that Mount Gox is short for Magic the Gathering? How crazy is that, man? I want to do a show on that and look at the chart of Mt. Gox and Bitcoin and tie it into Magic the Gathering somehow. It's on my list, but I have other things I need to do first, like today's show. How about that for a change? I said I wasn't going to ramble, and here I am, I'm rambling. Ah. Whatever. Okay, let's go over the week. So today is Let me see. Let's do the numerology. It's 817. 17 is an 8. 2023 is a 7. That's a 15. Reduces to a 6. It's a 6-day in numerology. Even numbers to me represent balance and reciprocity. Also, a 6 is 2 threes, and threes are triangles, and triangles are the strongest configuration in architecture, besides the arch. But somebody correct me. I could be wrong. All right, so today, being a 6-day and a Sunday, moon is in Libra, connecting to the south node of the moon. South node, we are releasing. What are we releasing? Well, I just talked about balance and reciprocity, and that has a lot to do with Libra, which is represented by the scales. Okay. If we're talking about health, we have the sun in Virgo, health, and Libra rules the kidneys. Interesting fact. And the south node it's connected to loss, but it could be things from the past. Because when you look at the north and south of the moon, the north and south nodes of the moon, they're not a planet, they are a mathematical point. It's where the sun and the moon cross in their ecliptic. It's considered to be karma. So it's very impactful for you if you have planets or points at 25 degrees of Aries, 25 degrees of Libra, first and foremost and specifically, and then 25 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn, because those would be the 90-degree aspect to the angles. If your planets or points are at those degrees of Capricorn and Cancer, most impactful for you. Now, this is, again, the moon. It's a passing influence, only lasts a couple hours. So it's intuitive and it is emotional and it is where the collective is. Seeking balance, perhaps looking back on things, and also what we need to release in order to balance. So if one side of the scales or the situation or the relationship are too heavily weighted in one direction, that's what we need to look at, perhaps. Also, just looking at relationships in general, with the transit of the South Node to Libra. It is having to give something up, perhaps, but we could also look to the past as a resource when it comes to that type of thing. Um, Again, passing influence. Now, what do we have in terms of aspects today? We have Venus making a square to Jupiter. So, Jupiter, abundance, perhaps, but a abundance of an emphasis, perhaps, on our relationships and considering the retrograde of Venus. It can be our relationship to ourself, how we feel about, our ourself. It has to do with, attraction, law of attraction, money and attention, because that's Leo, but generosity also, because Leo is very, very generous. It's not stingy when it expresses love, and it's the warmth and the, warmth and generosity. that kind of thing. Think of the sun. Think of how we are nourished by the sun. And Venus in Leo brought up a lot about the sun and solar flares, geomagnetic storms, and the like. That was interesting too. But also, we're looking at, in terms of finance, we're looking at increase. So we're looking at an increase in the value of money, but also inflation. Yeah, I hate to say it. Certain things are going up. Leo is gold. Venus in Leo. I wonder if we'll see the gold price rise or an increased uh, attention on buying gold. The gold rush. So that's Venus square to Jupiter. There's a lot about relationships. We are still, again, in the shadow, even though Venus is direct, we're still going over whatever it is that we were processing internally about our relationships, about our own, relationship to ourself, whether it's physical or our brand. Rebranding was a thing of the Venus retrograde. So she's going pretty slow. So she'll be making this aspect for a few more days. And since she's gaining speed. So seeing an increase. Where's the increase? We're gaining, but what are we gaining? I also talked a lot about, if you're thinking about how prices are going to go up, you got to think about how you can, one, save money, and two, make a little extra. Creating a few different income streams is never a bad idea. Mercury retrograde had me going through a few of the things that I want to get rid of. In terms of what I love to sell things like on the apps and Facebook Marketplace. That's always been good to me. So we're looking at that perhaps, but those are just my opinions and suggestions. I personally like cryptocurrency also. So investments, the things that have physical value, actual tangible value. Venus square to Jupiter, a lot about relationships. Again, we have the moon in Libra today. Also, maybe thinking about things and people that we lost. And maybe reconnecting with people from the past. So we have a building opposition from the Sun to Neptune. That is not exact. The Sun is at 24, 25 degrees of Virgo, and we have Neptune at 27, 28 in retrograde. So there's something building that maybe we didn't see, or where things have been unclear and perhaps been hidden from us. It's a big reveal, guys. It is either somebody is totally grifting and they're going to be exposed, or really watch out for scammers. There's been a lot of that during the Mercury retrograde, for sure. Filtering out those scammers from your email, and like they're getting pretty crafty. But the Sun building up to the opposition with Neptune, that's something to watch for. The moon is making an adjusting in conjunct to Neptune. So there is something about perhaps fairness and justice and balance in Libra and the South Node, and something from the past, and somehow we are losing value, or we're giving our value, we're devaluing perhaps ourself in relationships, but some place that we didn't see. Perhaps there's an opportunity that we didn't see before, of where we could increase our worth and value on the marketplace, or in the workplace or wherever we are. But there's something coming that we need to see because the sun is going to shine a light over to Neptune over the next couple of days. And the moon in conjunct to Neptune is giving us an opportunity to see it. And it has to do with Venus because it is the moon and the south node in Libra. Also, where situations are sort of wishy-washy and non-committal, and where you're giving to get, but not necessarily, kind of self-motivated, but not really valuing your relationship, or vice versa, not being valued. Um, Libra can be a real fence-sitting, wishy-washy sign next to Gemini. Um, because it's trying to be diplomatic, it wants to keep the peace, it's always trying to keep the balance, but sometimes it just lets a situation go on because we don't like the confrontation in Libra. It needs to be diplomatic, but we've got Mars coming up on the south node. This is what's building. And it's a pressure building up that is going to really explode when Mars gets to the south node. And that is probably, it's over a week out. So it's not happening yet, but there is an amping up of the friction, of the need to address some anger, hostility, and deal with it in a diplomatic way. But if we're avoiding it, or if there's a lot of passive aggressiveness, then it's going to get outwardly aggressive. There will be a confrontation when Mars gets to the south node in roughly a week. Sorry, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. So over the next 2 weeks, this is going to be building, whether it's the increasing tensions, increase of prices, increase of valuing and devaluing. Certain things will be revalued, the revaluation of ourself as a commodity, because we are our own best asset. Our relationship to our resources, how resourceful we are, on the one hand, and on the other hand, there is tension building up in the world in terms of resources and the revaluation of currency and exchange, and how it's going to affect us, the United States, personally, and other nations around the world, because there's a lot of talk of going back to the gold standard, right? So we all know how the printing of the money works with the Fed and all of that, and the petrodollar. There's a shift to uh, asset-backed currencies. There's talk about gold ETFs. Expect more of that. So, what my advice and what I have been doing is learning more, because we need to be self-sufficient. There's a lot of talk about being self-sufficient, and people think, oh, I've got to grow a garden, or I got to have solar panels. I got to be completely independent. Not exactly. We're going to be independent. We're moving towards working on being independent, yet interdependent, separate but equal. So there are creative ways where you can increase the value of currency that you have coming in to, you know, into your hands, let's say, and you got to be creative about it. That's being self-sufficient. Self-sufficient is nobody needs to tell you what to do. You educate yourself and you make your own decisions based on what's going on in the world, you know, not just what's going on within our country, because we are a global civilization and you too much time on our hands. We have, oh, I got to keep going here. I said I wasn't going to be wordy, and here I am again. It's at an hour. I'm only up to Sunday. All right, we're moving right along. And I am going to try to, oh, you know what? I couldn't share my screen last week. Buggers. I'm going to try it again. Let's see. I got way too many screens open. Share the screen. Share the screen. Got too many screens open. I got my Zoom. I got that. Let's see if I can. Oh, here we go. Window, Zoom. Da da da. Oh, frack. Chrome. All right, well, I'm still in my retrograde phase. I gotta update this shite. So you'll just have to listen to me talk about it. No big, right? Because I don't think I could just share within. Maybe. No. Entire screen? One more try. One more try. Oh God, I've got too much open. Frack me. One more. Hmm. No. Okay. Make note. Fix Google Chrome. Google Chrome. All right. So where were we? Making a note. Google Chrome. Being a good Virgo girl. And being organized. Making notes. All right. So that's today. Looking at the balance, you know, those are the scales. Those are the scales of Estrella, where she presents the hearts of men upon a scale to Zeus, so to speak. It is the concept of judgment, and Libra is associated with the scales of judgment and the justice system, as well as lawyers and the defendant and what's it called? The other one. Not perpetrator. That would be the defendant, right? The parties to a lawsuit. All right. So, South Node, got to release something. What do you need to get rid of? Tomorrow, it's the 18th. It's a 7 day. It's Monday, the moon day, September 18th. So, later on today, the moon will go into Scorpio. But before it does that, it makes a trine aspect, a 120-degree aspect to Pluto. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It makes a square to Pluto. So there's something that happens later on today that there's a situation that is building. The sun is building up to making that trine aspect to Pluto, which is taking control, dealing with our obsessions. It is transforming, but Pluto transforms by destruction. It's also detoxification, dun da da, of toxic things in the body, but also emotions and mental patterns because Mercury is in Virgo. So the moon makes a square later on today to Pluto. So we're dealing with power and obsession and fear of the changes that are coming. So dealing with that later on. And the square causes us to act. So I wouldn't recommend making decisions based on fear, but if you are afraid of something happening, then you will take action and you will balance the scales, right? Or maybe you'll take care of your kidneys. I don't know. Um, Maybe you will value your health more, so you will take certain actions to make a change in what you consume or whatnot. Or, looking at money. Money spent on health is money well spent. Health is wealth. So, okay. So later on, like I said, moon moves into Scorpio. It is also a water sign. So most of the day tomorrow, the moon is in Scorpio. Scorpio is going to the deepest parts of ourself, going deep into our psyche, but it's also deep into investigation. So Scorpio is the sign connected to research along with Virgo. So tomorrow is a really good day to get the details, do your research, get more information, get the facts, get the details, because the moon is going to make a sextile to Mercury direct in Virgo. So we can get to the psychological root of something, or we could be really getting a lot of detailed information when it comes to whatever it is we want to research. Whether it's going deep within ourselves, or doing like a full-on private eye investigation into who, what, where, when, and how. I love the fact that we are um, we have more access to investigative journalism because of social media and excellent voices who have been silenced by mainstream, leaving the mainstream and doing what they're really here to do, which is serve the public in Virgo by getting the facts, getting the details, getting down to the truth of the matter. So that's awesome. So a lot of that during Mercury retrograde. We saw Candace Owens with her other side of the story, which is a really good thing that happened, that I observed during Mercury retrograde, is getting the other side of the story, or just having both sides of the situation, having a voice, getting facts that you didn't, details that you didn't hear before because the voice was suppressed. Uh, Moon in Scorpio, it's going to focus on Scorpio people, and then it will also be affecting Taurus people more so on Tuesday as the moon opposes Jupiter and Uranus. But we're going to be talking about Scorpio themes: death, sex, taxes, also psychological manipulations. Now, the sun is building to the trine with Pluto. Over the theme of the next couple of days, there's a lot coming up about the power games and manipulations that are associated with Scorpio and Pluto. And Pluto being in Capricorn, we're going to get a lot of tea, and it starts. It's starting. It's starting. It's amping up. Um, the new moon was making a trine to Uranus. So big change and happening swiftly. I expect things to move very fast. And so we start getting some details or intuitive hits, however you want to apply it for yourself, having to do with the Scorpio undercurrents. Scorpio is not an overt outward sign. It's yin, it's water, it's emotional. It picks up on the subtle vibes. It's psychic. It's secretive. So we're getting a lot of secrets coming out, investigations, more information. I expect this to be juicy for true crime stuff. So I could be putting a video out this week. I've been talking about it. I just haven't gotten to it. But now that Mercury is direct, Venus is direct, I'm on it. I'm on it. So secrets coming out again, scandals. There have been a lot of celebrity scandals. I expect more. Definitely when it comes to our leaders, because that's the sun. Big changes in the way we look at our leaders and the type of leadership that we're looking for. I think we're looking for a man of the people, in quote, man or woman, that represents the average everyday person and not a member of the elite, the sun being the leader, leadership, and authority. Um, so I think we're building up to a change. We're building up to big change, but with the new thing coming, something has to pass away. We're dealing with Pluto. We're dealing with death. We're dealing with fear. We're dealing with obsession, scandals, skeletons in the closet. Monday and Tuesday are Scorpio days. So listen to what you hear, but wait for the details because there's more coming out. Let's go to Tuesday. Tuesday's the 19th. Moon is still in Scorpio. This is the day where the moon will square to Venus, square to Jupiter from Scorpio. And we are talking about, again, scandal and secrets. And this will have to do probably with money, finances, taxes, perhaps laws changing, um, the the way our laws, specifically taxes, but the way laws apply to, let's say, lower income brackets versus higher income brackets, and the lack of equality or fairness and balance, shall we say, um, in terms of conflict. Like on a global scale, it's building. It is about power and control, and um, it is about resources. It's absolutely about the management and control of resources. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So, Jupiter, the moon is opposing Jupiter. We see the expansion of it, but it's also well, we're dealing with a lot of things on different levels, but there's the relational aspect of it, dealing with finances and the change in circumstances, uh, talking about joint finances and taxes and laws. We could be talking about laws too, because it is Jupiter. Jupiter's a ruler of Sagittarius, and that deals with laws and lawmakers. There's a lot going on with leaders in general regarding their relationships, their spouses, because Venus is conjunct to Juno, specifically the wife. So if there's scrutiny on a person and judgment, it could be because they're having an affair or there's a problem with the wife, some eh, I can't say it. Anyway, just something having to do probably involving females and males both, but yeah, there could also be something regarding religion, higher institutions of higher learning would be colleges, foreign people, because we're talking about Jupiter, women, finances, money, celebrities, and the moon in Scorpio never fails to deliver on the tea. I love it. So that is the 19th. Again, that's a 7. Sevens and odd number days in numerology tend to put things off balance. So there's an adjustment, just like the inconjunct in astrology, it throws one off balance. That's the way I look at it. I don't look at the specific meanings of interpretations of the numbers themselves in numerology. I look at where we are in the scale of 1 to 9, because that's the cycle, starting at 1, ending at 9. Where we are, we're almost to a 9. We're at the 7. We've got 3 more to go. So I look at that. I look at the odd number being something that throws us off balance and we have to make an adjustment to it, and the even number where the teeter-totters are balanced. The scales are balanced. Justice, in a sense. But anyway, so the 19th is a 7 day. That is Tuesday. Moon in Scorpio. Again, later on Tuesday, we have a big shocker or some kind of big change because the moon will oppose Uranus. And it's an emotional thing. And it may hit very deep because it is the moon in Scorpio. But Scorpio being a very private sign, I feel like this is exposing something, or it's coming to expose something going into the 20th, which is an 8 day. 8 day. It's almost the 9. I expect juicy details. Look at Joe Biden because he is a Scorpio. Whatever's going on with him, his health, his his spawn, Hunter. I mean, that is a shitstorm. It's a shitstorm. There's just so much like information out there about him. Uh, they're talking about impeachment. They're talking about, the laptop from hell. That's one thing that comes to mind just because he's Scorpio and the moon is in Scorpio and shocking details coming out. And then the moon making a sextile to the sun, which is the leader. But it is in Virgo, so it could be health. Uh, the moon in Scorpio on his sun, which is around 26, 27 Scorpio, somewhere at the very end of Scorpio. So it can be about his health. It's also making a sextile to Pluto. So I'm not going to say he's going to be dying, but he doesn't have the power. He doesn't. He's obviously working. Um, he's a figurehead. He doesn't have power. But he's fucking things up. So I think he's fucking things up and it's going to come to light. Like, if you're not paying attention to what's going on, shame on you. You're living in a cave. But it's just there's going to be more details coming out, more dirt, more tea, dishing up by the boatload. There will be something coming out about him. Not that there hasn't already, but waiting in the wings. Who's there? Waiting in the wings to take over. Been hearing many things, but we won't go into that right now. I'm not going to give my opinion on that. I've already given it in other shows. I should do just a show on that. We're just talking about astrology here today, so let's go, Brandon. Yeah, so the moon very strongly aspecting the sun, but for ourselves personally, we're coming to terms with our own mortality. We are getting online with our psychic intuitive faculties, however we receive information. It's also about the power that we have when we are in control, Scorpio, Pluto, of our emotions, the moon. So, in any kind of confrontation or friction within our relationships, let's say there's a situation in a workplace. There is, that I know of, that I privy to and was discussing with someone recently, um, within the workplace and the hierarchy of employees and the outward appearance of fairness, equality, diplomacy, but the undercurrent of passive aggressiveness with females. Okay. Um, and the males, well, it's not females across the board, but there's a particular male who's fucking fed up with it, and he has been nice and diplomatic about it, but now he is pushing back and calling shit out, and management is getting involved, and the issue is coming up about the toxic workplace and how um, employees in that situation, and it's actually a very well known place. I won't say where it is, but it is a place that if I mentioned it, a lot of you might know where it is, because it is locally situated near me. And let's just say it's well known in the uh, metaphysical, new age, um, and that like category. So I won't go into it. But I've been observing this from the sidelines of this toxic workplace. And there's a big difference between what this organization puts out or what they say they stand for. Um, and you know what side of the spectrum I'm talking about. I don't even have to say it. But we talk a lot about fairness, equality, equity, balance, spirituality, right? But I could tell you it's anything but going on behind the scenes. It's not. It is slanted. It is biased. It is toxic. So, uh, we could be talking about situations like this, toxic workplaces with the Sun and Mercury in Virgo. It is the Um, it is management sort of versus the employees and, you know, upper management, middle management, and then the employees, how people are being treated. And there's a situation. Shit is ready to go down. And I've advised this person about this. We've had some talks and um oh, I just smell a lawsuit and I am there for it. Totally. Toxic workplace situations, lawsuits. You could hear something about that. I mean, think about what happened with Lizzo, right? That's Venus retrograde in Leo. Um, and square to Jupiter. And now with um So the moon going through Scorpio, let's say on Tuesday, this is the spying and the research and the gathering of investigation and talking to witnesses and, building your case. Scorpio is the private investigator, the research, and getting all the facts. So on the 20th, we have early, we have the moon making the sextile to Virgo, Sun, sextile to Pluto. It's in fact at the midpoint. And this would be Brandon, Zark Brandon's Sun in Scorpio with the moon conjunct. So he is in between the Sun and Pluto. He's being squeezed out. We just have to wait and see what happens with that. But there will be crap hitting the fan. Maybe he'll be pooping his depends. Oh God, wouldn't that be funny? Like real evidence that he is incontinent. Not just incompetent, but incontinent. Shit hitting the fan. Let's see what happens. That's the 20th. That's an 8. There's something building, and then the bubble pops on the 21st because it's the 9 day. And wait, going back to the 20th, sorry, the moon is in Sagittarius. That will make a square to Mercury. So there's communication, there is the streamlining or the information or the truth, the things that we need to make changes with, actions we need to take, because the moon in Sagittarius is the higher perspective. It's getting to the truth about a matter, and it will be all over the media, whatever it is, because that's Sagittarius also. And the square, the moon making a square to Saturn. Saturn is restrictions, obstacles. Saturn also represents aging, but responsibilities, difficult decisions, um, responsibilities. Did I say that? Saturn, boundaries, legal issues because it's the moon in Sagittarius. So telling the truth because it's the right thing to do. It is going to be the thing that is most emotionally satisfying, and it's where the moon is. So because we all need a higher perspective, but the square to Saturn is coming up against resistance. There is resistance to the truth. Saturn wants to form structure and be solid, but it's hard to do in Pisces. So Saturn there is coming up against the illusions, delusions, lies, um, denial, disassociation that happens with Pisces, the avoidance of responsibility. But the moon is pushing it. It's pushing. So Sagittarius moon, or feeling like we have a responsibility to do something and the action needed to get it done with the moon squaring, we kind of reach Wednesday with that kind of impetus. Like there's, things we know now, information that we have. We're still gathering information. We still want more info, right? So Virgo, we have Mercury. The moon is going to make a square by the end of the day on Wednesday because there's a higher perspective being gathered regarding our situations, perhaps our resources, our relationships, our relationship to the truth. And quite honestly, um, Saturn is a reality check. So if it's about, let's say, because we're dealing with Moon and Sag, let's go to Jupiter. If it's increasing prices, we got to make a difficult decision and set some boundaries. We may be restricted from doing something. Where there is an increase, we are going to see a decrease in some way. Think about the balancing that we're going to have to do in terms of reaching our goals and the influx of energy out versus what's coming in. So it's reciprocity in relationships. It's also dealing with finances and learning again, having a higher perspective. So that is the 8 day, and the number 8, though I don't really look at the meanings of the numbers, I know that 8 has a lot to do with business and money and finance and material wealth and success. So there is that factor. Um, so maybe we're learning, maybe we want to learn a little bit more, educate ourselves, and get a higher perspective with a Sagittarius moon. It can also deal with foreign issues, foreign countries, the world at large, cultures, um, and how they're dealing, how other countries are dealing. It's time to look outside of ourself, I think, for the answers outside of ourself, meaning the US, let's say. So that's Wednesday. I want to say that there's probably news and talk about foreign foreign assets, investments, um, probably more talk about the connections or just putting more of the dots together because we know that it was pay for play with Joe and his son. We know it's all out there. Okay. They can't sweep it under the rug. It is out there. We're going to get more. There's going to be probably more talk about legal because we are dealing with Sag and Jupiter. We are building up to more information, probably connecting the dots of where the money was going, from whom, to whom, but like receipts, actual receipts coming Wednesday. Money, business. All right, the 21st, that's the 9. Something is ending. Ba, ba, ba. And we've got a Sagittarius moon again. So we're in the waxing phase. The ending of a cycle has occurred. And the 22nd will start a new cycle. The cycle from 1 to 9 is a story. Think of it as a storyline and see what you're starting on the 1, how it's building. Look at the 3-day, the 6-day, and the 9-day. 3, 6, and 9. This is how things organically develop. It's the phi spiral. So you could sit there and watch, of course you can, but you can also participate and manipulate and triangulate. You can all you can also masturbate if you want to. Yeah, that's a show for another day. Sex magic. So with the 9-day, that's the culmination. But if you are actually making effort and how should I say it? Ritualizing the 3, 6, and 9, making a symbolic effort, doing what you can towards your stated goal, the 3, 6, and 9 are very important, those 3 days. So, on the 9-day, you reap the harvest of your efforts, or you get the culmination of the situation that has been building from 1 to 9. Pat says Yanni egg. What do you know about Yanni eggs, huh? What you know about that? I don't know nothing about that. Except for the jade ones are fucking expensive and you don't need that shit. Just saying. And a lot of the jade out there is fake as fuck. So I know a good crystal dealer. If you're looking, hit me up. Yeah, so on the 21st, that's the 9-day. 1 and 2, the 2 and the 1, that is a 3. We're in a 9-month on a 3-day. Wait a second. Am I doing this math right? Frack me. Are you kidding me? 7, 8, 9, 9, 18, 9. I'm off. My math is off. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Where did I go wrong? All right. Let's go back. Let's see. 9, 7. Nope. Sorry. My mind is still in Mercury retrograde. The 18th is the 7. The 19th is the 8. The 20th is the 9. Boop. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Somebody should have corrected me. You're not doing your math. You're not doing my math. Why are you not doing my math? All right. So, sorry. The 20th is the 9. So the 21st is a 1 day. Fuck me. All right. So that would be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. See, I'm freaking off. No, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday's the 9. Tuesday is the 8. Monday is the 7. 8 is the money day, the money shot on the 19th. Fack. All right. Okay. Wow, the moon's in Scorpio. So we're talking about taxes. We're talking about hidden money. We're talking about crimes. We're talking about crimes of the many type. Or maybe you're looking at your taxes. Maybe you're like, shit, I should have opened an LLC. Then I wouldn't be taxed up the yin yang as a, you know, as a, what do you call it? Single filer, tax filer employee. Yeah, I should be doing that myself. Anyway, note to self. All right, so that was Wednesday. Fuck, sorry. 9, and then we have the Thursday, 1, which is the 21st. Okay, so on the 21st, we have the moon making an adjustment to Jupiter, law, legal, lawmakers. So we're talking about judicial, we're talking about government. The moon is making a trine aspect, 120 degrees, fire to fire, moon to Venus. So money, finances, females, relationships, Venus square to Jupiter, legal issues within partnerships. That would include divorces, of course. And the moon being in Sagittarius, being the ruler of Jupiter being the ruler. We're talking about shared finances. We're talking about legal separations. We're talking about any kind of partnerships that have to do with shared finances. And if you're talking about people going into partnership, how you're going to structure that, how you are going to regulate that. There will be a lot of focus and talk about partnerships, companies, people and their divorce agreements, prenups. On an internal level, we could be looking at our own learning more, obviously, Sagittarius, but learning more about our own values and self-worth. But when it comes to money and how we handle money and how we handle when there is shared finances involved. So like if you're going into a business venture, even if it's a very informal agreement, you want to know that both parties are being represented equally and who is going to do what, who is going to receive what compensation of some kind of value, whether it's barter or actual exchange. But I do expect something legal coming out at this time, perhaps. That's a one day. So there could be a deliberation about something and we have a ruling by a judge. This could be a female. It could be in regards to a female. We're also dealing with Juno. So there's something about partnerships and the merging or splitting of finances in a legal perspective, some way, shape, or form. But this isn't going to apply to you if you're not having these transits. But you could be hearing about it. You could be talking about it. Your friend could be going through it. I think there's restructuring in terms of compensation. So if we're talking about uh, strikes, right? Labor contracts, unions, which I know that I heard Joe Biden, something about him. Somebody was of the opinion that he was encouraging more union activity and that was a bad thing. Like we think of unions as, well, representing the workers, right? Maybe they're not. I mean, there we could see something coming out perhaps with that. If I'm not mistaken, asteroid union is somewhere in the middle of Cancer and Mars is squaring it. Is there something coming out about the relationship of the unions to their workers or to legislators? Is there scandals going on? I think so. I think there's a scandal everywhere. I'm always looking for the scandal. All right. So, legal issues, travel. What's going on with travel? There could be some issue with the travel industry, people who work in the industry, restrictions, companies doing stupid shit again, and employees are fed the fuck up. We're going to see a lot of that. Now that Mercury is direct, now that Venus is direct, well, you're going to see this push and pull of let's go back to remember the good old days when you couldn't do shit? It makes me think of that Tommy Boy meme. Hey, I remember going places? Yeah, that was fun. During the Rona days? Yeah, that was not fun, and we're not going back there. There will be lawsuits. This is what I'm seeing. There will be class action lawsuits. There will be companies and certain sectors wanting to go back to certain protocols that we dropped because back in May, didn't the pooper in chief drop the whatever the pandemic protocols or Protocols of Zion, or uh, if I'm lying, I'm Zion. Um, if I'm the lion, I'm a Zion. Pick that one apart. There's something. There is, when we're talking about unions, it's not just labor unions, it's the union of opposites. It is the union of marriage or contractual agreements also. So, yeah, civil rights, lawsuits, toxic work environments, violation, HIPAA, all those things. Get HIPAA to HIPAA. Start enforcing that shite. Yeah. No, Dave, I don't see the Nuremberg protocols. You mean the Nuremberg trials? I don't see that yet. We're getting there, though. I think that is coming. But we have to see. It's like it doesn't happen. It gets talked about first, then it builds within the consciousness of the collective before there's action. It's going to be a lot of time. There's a lot more to come out before there will be trials, but I can picture the dude's face. It's not the Speaker of the House. It's the other dude, Jim Jordan. I think these are congressional committees and there are investigations. Watch those things. So as those things go, those are the legal issues I'm talking about also. And the investigations and people that are being called upon to testify in front of Congress, uh, getting subpoenaed, the FBI, right, or the DOJ being subpoenaed and refusing to turn over evidence. Excuse me? Excuse me. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh no, they won't. Like, they're gonna have to be arrested and dragged, kicking and screaming. This is why scales of justice tip very slowly. It's gonna take some time. Grab your popcorn and watch it play out. They're starting to tip. Things are going back in the opposite direction. That's why I don't think we're going back to the 2020 Rona days of, it's not going to be like that. There's going to be a push and pull. There's going to be the encroachment upon our freedom, liberties, and then there's the pushback. Then there's more information that we need. We have to reach a tipping point in terms of collective consciousness before things can really heat up. And because the dirty deeds done dirt cheap are coming to light, those who have committed them are getting super scared and will do anything to protect their asses, which is why we haven't had justice, because a lot of them have, they all have dirt on one another. I mean, that's how politics is done. All right. So, uh, they don't do their jobs as lawmakers because they may be compromised or killed or their families put in danger. So, understand that's how it works. But it comes a point where you cannot keep silent anymore. And sometimes coming forward and talking about it is safer. It's safer. They're less likely to get you. All right. That's what we're looking at here. There is a tension building. There's a war going on. There is a legal battle, but there's also the battle within our own government, um, which I talked about actually early this year, um, about our, you know, the whatever, our government, public servants, they're supposed to be, but they're self-serving, but they're going to turn on one another and eat each other. Watch it happen. It's starting. This is going to be fun. All right, so where are we now? Was that Thursday? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday is the 21st. It's a one day, the moon in Sagittarius. I expect a lot of information. Sag moons are always good for the media because Sag rules the media, and we have, citizen journalists now, that kind of thing. So you can't hide anymore. The crims can't hide. So that's the 21st, that's Thursday, getting to Friday, which is a 2. The moon is square to the sun. That is called the first quarter waxing, a moment of crisis. It is called the crisis of conscience because it is, I think it's the crisis of conscience. One of them is the crisis of action. I feel like this is more internal, like it's building, like you see it and you know you're going to have to act. And it's when you have the waxing waning square, the last quarter, that's like, ah, shit, I've got X amount of time. I got to get this done. Right. So there will be something coming out regarding Virgo stuff, um, leaders, health, regulations, systems, routines, criticism, truth, uh, yeah, justice and truth. I mean, that's Sagittarius right there. Could be travel, perhaps. It could be worldwide situations because it's Sagittarius, deals with foreign cultures, gaining a higher perspective, but also having to take action. This is the first opportunity since the new moon where we're pushed to take action. People are being pushed to take action for, negative or positive. The moon makes a trine and a sextile to the nodes. It is releasing the south node in Libra and pushing towards the north node in Aries, which is the individual. I feel like individual rights, civil rights, perhaps, might be in focus. Very interesting. Um, and the right of the individual to govern their own health, perhaps. Uh, and there will be some people looking at it like, if you're not wearing a mask, you're risking my health. I think those people are in the majority right now, but they will be there. So that's the 22nd, and that's a 2. 22, it's a 4, 2, 2, 4, 9, 7, and 4 is 11, 2 in numerology, if you care. So that is a very Libran theme, and we are looking at the we and maybe letting go of some of the we's and looking more at the me's. Also, since the ruler of the North Node is Mars, there's a conflict and we are being confronted and pushed to stand up for ourselves. This could also be like similar to the situation where I was talking about with the person that I know in the toxic work situation, contacting a lawyer, getting to know what your rights are, building your case, and focusing on how it's not healthy, how it's suppressing and putting down and violating rights. Getting to know what the laws are, know what your rights are as an employee. How about that? All right, so that is Friday, the day ruled by Venus. What else is going on? Venus has moved away from the square to Jupiter, so the action and the tipping point in relationships, in finances, valuation of money, that has already passed. Venus is making a sextile to Mars. They are kind of moving together in harmony. So our actions and our values, what we desire, what we want to attract, as it relates to how we act. And in terms of Libra, it is more of a we focus, but it's also the collective, it is the collective we, and what is, the actions that are being taken that are fair and not biased, right? So we are really looking at that. Like, is justice being done, actions being taken towards justice and balancing between masculine and feminine, men and women? Is there unfair treatment here? There could be. I could tell you in the situation I'm thinking of, I know that there is, for sure. And so we need to be gathering and understanding what the truth is, building our case for change. But the pressure is building because there will be a confrontation. Wait till Mars gets onto the south node and squares Pluto in 2 weeks. This is all building up to what's going to happen in 2 weeks. So if you're paying attention today, when the moon is on the south node, you'll understand what the situation is and how you can approach it. So it's personal for everybody. Friday, let's see. Oh my God, I'm already at 2 hours. Jesus H. Really need to pare this down. All right. Moon in Sagittarius moves into Capricorn, more serious, somber, business-like, work-oriented, goal-oriented on September 2nd, focusing on management, people in authority. That's Capricorn. Um, what else? It starts out with Sagittarius. There is an action. There is a friction because it's the moon square to the sun. That's first quarter square, the opening act, so to speak. So then it gets serious after that. Now it's like we have to escalate this. We're escalating the situation when the moon goes into Capricorn. Or we could also just be more mature emotionally, handling our emotions. Moon in Capricorn is making a sextile to Saturn in Pisces. So keeping a boundary on our emotions, a governor, so to speak, being mature, but also having a boundary with other people. Like, there's a line being drawn in the sand. And by Friday, it's like, all right, I drew the line. It was crossed. These are the facts. This is what happened. This is where it's not fair. This is where it's out of balance. And this is the legal ramifications. We might be talking about that. But we're also talking to management. Management is getting involved by Friday. Upper management. So it's funny because when I see these aspects, when I see aspects in astrology, my brain goes to where am I seeing examples of that and how is it playing out? And obviously we have free will, but we do have fate also. So this is like a fated situation. This is how it progresses. You have a choice, for the most part, which side of the case, let's say, you're going to be on. And what you're going to do about it. What are you going to do with the information you've been given? How are you going to look at the higher perspective? How are you going to balance the things in your life? Uh, and so on and so forth. So, Friday, it starts out big because Sag is big. Moon in Sag is big. Making a square to the sun, it's getting big. It's getting bigger. Whatever it is, the situation is increasing, it's getting bigger, and the tension is growing. The need for diplomacy, applying fairness, justice, balance, laws, legal, and utilizing media, news media, journalism, all those themes. So let's get to Saturday, September 23rd. This is the fall equinox. Equinox meaning equal night and day. So it is the halfway point between spring equinoxes. So the balancing of the days, the balancing of the tipping point of the cycle of the seasons. We're going into the harvest season. So the sun enters Libra on the 23rd, and the moon will be in Capricorn, squaring to Mars in Libra. So the mature thing to do is get ready to address the growing conflict. Having the maturity to see both sides, because Aries is me and um, Libra is we, and we have Mars, that's the masculine. Mars is the ruler of Aries. We have an opposition between Mars and Chiron, and this is where the actions could come from a wounded place. This could be actions against men because it's Mars, the wound of the masculine. In the situation I'm thinking of, um, the way I feel it's kind of developing is a backlash against men in a broader sense, but in a specific circumstance. So we could see things regarding men and women. There is a trine from Venus and Juno, Venus being females, Juno being the wife, and marriage and partnerships, making a trine to Chiron. Perhaps a woman comes into the situation and is able to heal the situation. Women acting in a more, taking on a more masculine or yang role, perhaps. Women dealing with independence or asserting themselves in a healthy way, or men coming to a place where they're able to stand up and be men, you know, uh, and not be suppressed and shunned and attacked because they are showing anger, getting enraged. Um, Again, the situation that I'm thinking of. It's like for a man, and it's a young man, for a young man to show any kind of anger, hostility, being suppressed, but maybe the guy has every right to be angry because he's being treated unfairly. He's being treated passive aggressively. So when he gets openly angry, openly asserts himself and is aggressive, not angry or violent, not angry in the terms of violence, but there is a righteous anger. So there's a righteous anger building here, and it comes from a wound. And the wound has to do with Aries, has to do with the individual being able to assert their rights and their right to take action, assert them, not assert, I don't want to say that again, but come into the defense. There's a lot of that happening here. And with the moon in Capricorn, it's a mature way to handle conflict. It's a restraint of emotions, the right use of uh, how we feel. It's business, not personal. It is not personal with the moon in Capricorn. Plus, it's also involving, let's say, management or authority having to make a right decision in the situation as the moon squares Mars and Chiron, because Mars is not happy with something that is bothering him with Chiron in Aries. He's not able to be himself. He's not able to be independent. He's feeling suppressed. He gets shamed for showing his anger. It's a lot of the issues coming up, but I like the fact that Venus is making the trine to Chiron because it feels like the feminine is bringing some aid, some healing, some help, some is saying, I see you, I've got your back. And she's being more masculine, right? That's like, you have a friend who is going to stand up to the people that are attacking you and testify on your behalf that, you're not going to do that. Like, we're not going to put up with that. I'm going to speak out about it. As the sun enters into the Venus ruled sign of Libra, looking for more balance and justice. So the sun will make a awkward aspect of adjustment, the inconjunct to Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces has been checked out as a manager, as an authority, as a father figure. Saturn is the father. It does represent authorities and how we deal with authority, how authority deals with us. And the sun over the weekend, next weekend, is going to show Saturn where it has not drawn the boundary that it should. It's not contained the situation. It's now escalating. It's going from lower management to upper management, and you just can't stop this train. But you could have stopped it, but you didn't draw the boundary. Saturn didn't draw the boundary before. If Saturn didn't draw the boundary, both sides can be different. One person is drawing a boundary, but they don't have the authority, but they have the personal authority. Okay. Someone who has the authority is not drawing the boundary like they should and containing it and nipping it in the bud before it goes higher, before it escalates. But there is a chance to see it here. Will that decision be made? I don't know. But the sun in Libra is going to highlight where things need to be balanced. And the aspect that the sun makes first and foremost is the inconjunct to Saturn. It's going to talk about what's holding us back, what is the fear, what's the hesitation, what's the delay, um, what are we learning here, what needs to be balanced, what is not fair, what has been overlooked, where has the boundary not been drawn, where are we leaking? Saturn is leakage, energy leakage. I'm trying to see if there's anything else going on. For the most part, for quite some time, like all through the whole week, let's say, Venus and Mars are right on target. They are working in harmony. They're making a sextile from Leo to Libra. We're talking about fire and air. So air stokes the flames. Libra is stoking the flames of Leo. There's passion, there's intensity, there's love here. So, yeah, it's not all, whatever. It's not all drama. There's love, there's passion. But what's holding us back? The sun. What's holding us back? The sun in Libra partnerships in conjunct to Saturn. Saturn is a restriction. Saturn is a fear. Saturn is a boundary. What is the boundary? And is it real? Why, or where are we disassociated from our own relationships, and how can we get back in sync with them? Or are they done? Or are they past our expiration date? So that's the 23rd, which is a 3-day. It is the third party situation. It is 2 employees and a manager. It is 2 lovers and an ex, a mother, someone interfering, the thought, the idea of someone interfering, having to consider another person, not that they're interfering. Oh, it could be like mother, father, child, whatever it is. It's the 2 people coming together, the idea, the concept on the 22nd, and then the third thing that they are creating together on the 23rd being the 3-day. So let me just check. I'm almost winding down here. I'm almost done, you guys. There's 2 of you listening. Thank you for hanging in, whoever you may be. It could be Dave, it could be Pat, it could be Lynn, but I think maybe she dropped off. But thank you guys. I really appreciate your support. And if you're listening in the archives, I thank you too. Please subscribe, share, hit the bell to get notified of when I go live. It's always around the noonish on the Sunday. I didn't do any pop-ups this week. I'm popped out. Popped. I was pooped this week. But I'm adjusting my sails. I'm readjusting. I'm recalculating, as they say, my course and streamlining. Although I'm still talking 2 hours of shit. I didn't really want to. All right. I just wanted to check in on the dates and make sure that I'm still on Saturday. Yes, the 24th. That's a 4-day, 4 walls, 4 posters on the bed. 4 represents stability, home, what we're building, the containment, a box, and how we are our building, how we're building the structure of our life, and how we're containing everything, stability. Anyway, so that's the 24th. So we get to Sunday. The moon is again in Capricorn, and that's when it hits Pluto. So whatever has been building, the sun from Virgo, the end of Virgo, trining to Pluto, are we getting control over our lives? Are we being our own authority? Are we gaining our power? Are we looking at our addictions and our obsessions? That's all Pluto stuff. And are we facing our fears about or our resistance to change? as it comes to our relationships, because Pluto, on the 24th, the moon is conjunct Pluto. So it is also giving us an idea of what is going to happen with the Mars conjunct to the South Node, which is going to give us an idea of what happens when we're going to have the South Node eclipse. So this is a building up of tension, and it's quite intense on this Sunday, next Sunday, a week from today. Um, it's the forced change, it's the turning point, the no going back. It's incidents that are happening that are building up to the um the coming release in 2 weeks that I talked about with Mars conjunct the South Node. It is a releasing. Um, it could be a releasing of a person. It could be a releasing of a situation. It could be releasing of information from the past. It could be um, releasing of patterns in relationships, if that's how it's playing out for you. It could be a thing that is building up where there's a situation where there's power and control, power struggles, and manipulation of people and situations. With the incidents that are happening are leading up to how this culminates and where it's headed, because this is on a trajectory here. There's no stopping it. By the time Mars hits the South Node, it will square Pluto, where it busts through this wishy-washy um, two-tier justice system, if you will. These are the things that are going to be attacked aggressively. Um, uh, Two sets of rules for people, employees within a workplace, two standards, double standards, demanding certain things in relationships but not reciprocating, all those kind of things, where someone wants to keep control over a situation, whether it's a financial situation or the perception of the person in the relationship, or the people, the third parties who are observing the relationship. It's a lot of heavy dynamics and posturing here going on. This is amping up in terms of conflict, global conflict. Pluto is plutonium. Okay. Uranus is also Uranus and nuclear. They both deal with nuclear stuff, but I think Pluto more so. And aren't we talking about that? Aren't we talking about are we talking about your enriched uranium? Are we talking about plutonium? Are we talking about such dirty, dirty bombs? I don't know. But there is a rampant conflict. So you will hear about this stuff. It will be coming up. I'm not saying that something definitely is going to happen. I think something will happen. I'm not, I haven't looked at this really deeply enough to say what I think is going to happen, but I could tell you when it's going to happen. It also deals with pandemia, because we are dealing with Pluto in Capricorn. All of that we're seeing the tail end of the residue of the control mechanisms that came into play. Neptune, we're seeing hopefully through the power plays, but we're seeing where we got fooled. But Neptune in Pisces is also um, diseases. So we are dealing with death and passing and poisons and um, yeah, Neptune in Pisces, dealing with death by poisons. All right, so that comes to Sunday. There's something happening. There's also a tipping point because it's Pluto has been squaring the nodes, but the moon hitting there is a tipping point in regard to the transformation that's happening. It also relates to the crumbling structure of our government that was founded on the first Pluto at the Pluto transiting Capricorn was when our nation was founded. So we are talking about that transformation and where we're headed from there. And just like we were before, I mean, during the American Revolution, we're dealing, we're pushing for our independence and fighting against power and control. I mean, just to look at it from a very basic perspective. And we're doing that now, only the power and control is within the government itself. That's why I said the two factions, two sides, two parties, two sides to an argument, two ideologies going after one another. So while we're seeing the conflict, could be the conflict over the conflict and how to handle the conflict, but whatever it is, the sun in Libra is going to come through the degrees that Mars went through, Mars being on the warpath. The sun is going to come through to sort of hopefully bring a light to how we can achieve balance and diplomacy. There will be a call for more diplomacy, I'm sure, and how to handle the changing economic landscape and um, who has power and how they use it in any personal or collective situation. So that wraps it up. Still working on my streamlining, although I feel like I didn't rabbit trail quite as much. Part of what I want to do is I do my Sunday show, I talk about the week, I talk about whatever I want to, and then I'm either doing updates during the week or I may break it up into just the astrology for just that day. And thank you to Pat the Elf for that suggestion, being his Virgo self, for helping to, for suggesting a strategy and a streamlined, what do you call it, routine, protocol in that way for my show. Very helpful suggestion. Anyway, yeah, by the end of the week, next week, I think we see a little bit more stability and communication, stabilizing, routines, grounding, being more practical. By Sunday, Mercury is into the middle of Virgo and making a trine to Jupiter, which is fortunate. I think that's very helpful. There's a silver lining. And Mercury keeps moving on into the week after, into the trine to Uranus, which is where it all started with the Mercury retrograde. So Mercury will be out of its shadow. Mercury was giving us hints of what we need to do before the quote big change, which will come more into focus the week after this week. When we have the Mercury trine to Uranus. So we're ready for the changes. We have our information that we need. It's going to flow smoothly. Don't worry about it. It's all coming in divine timing. Is it the elf's birthday today? Elf, is it your birthday today? No, it passed. Oh my gosh. Happy belated birthday to you. It already passed, but that's cool. It was last week. This past week. Happy birthday to the elf. Yep, the 14th. I wasn't going to mention it exactly, but since you did, his birthday was on the 14th, the day of the new moon, right? Good for you. Good for you. So, with that, I'm going to close this transmission. I thank you all for coming. And if you would like to follow me on social media, I am on the app formerly known as Twitter. I am on Instagram, Facebook, Rumble channel, where my verboten videos will be housed after I take them off of YouTube. I'll be back this week popping up when I pop up. You will know it if you're following me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Mostly Twitter. I do make notations. I do make my announcements on Twitter and I repost. But if you are liking and subscribing to the channel, you will get the notifications of when I go live so that you can tune in. And if you're interested in booking a reading, I have very, very flexible terms. I my rate is by the hour. I do break it up into smaller chunks. It's basically whatever the person needs. We'll have a discussion beforehand and see um, what is called for you, what you want me to do. I also do coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and my hourly rate is cut in half because it's really half the work, where I will walk you through your own birth chart. So, if money is an issue and you want to learn astrology and you also want to get a chart reading, we in the session, we go over your chart. We use your chart for you to learn from. So you are learning about astrology, but you're also learning about your chart. So it is a reading and a schooling all in one. And the guys are talking about nipples in the chat room. I swear to God. Like, dudes never really leave the breastfeeding stage. Am I right, guys? And milk goes with cookies. So why doesn't that surprise me? Elf? No, stop it, you guys. You're too much. Oh no, I'm not teaching Gigi anything, and um, I don't offer my help when it hasn't been asked. So, yeah. Nope. I don't think Gigi needs help. Gigi's doing just fine. I don't think we need to worry about Gigi. All right, you guys, you know where to find me. AstroLunachick everywhere. You can email me, astrolunachick@gmail.com, or you can call and leave a voicemail, or you can text me at or on my Astro Lunachick hotline, 914-222-1231. So with that said, I'll see you next week. If you're here for the Sunday show, I'll see you during the week. If you're here for the pop-ups, and pray for me that I get my tech situation figured out. I think I need what is it called? I have it written down now. Now that I know what it's fucking called. Virtual audio mixer. Thank you, Dave. You tried to be helpful, but I think I just have to do it on my own, right? Just got to do it on my own. I was just hoping like somebody would kind of like know and have the answer, but no, the North Node is in Aries and we have to learn to be self-sufficient, which means go and find the fucking information, Susan. Just do it for yourself. Stop waiting for someone to help you. All right, you guys. I love you and thank you for your support. Please like, share, subscribe, do what you gotta do, and keep tuning in because when I get the shit straightened out, I'll be taking calls again. I can do it. I just want to do it the right way. And I want to do it the way it should be done, the right way. I want to sound fucking good. All right? All right. So I'm on my game, yo. All right, you guys. Bye, Lynn. Bye, Pat. Toodaloo, Dave. I'll see you. If you guys haven't seen my show on Elon Musk that I did the reading on Dave's show, Beyond the Strange, please go check that out. Talking about the Elon and his chart. Also, stay tuned for other celebrity charts because they're coming. They're coming. I promise. And hello and goodbye to Pulkit Jane. You're new here. Welcome. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for chiming in the chat and saying hello. I'm sorry I missed you before. I see you now. Okay, you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.